Hello friends, subscribe our channel and press bell icon to get the notification of new video. Thank you. Join our WhatsApp group to get daily latest updates. It's totally free.
Good afternoon. My name is Lucy. Could you tell me your full name, please?
Gao Nan, but my English name is Stephen.
And where are you from, Stephen?
Tianjin, a big city not far from Beijing.
Could I check your ID, please? Thanks. First of all, Stephen, I'd like to ask you a few questions about yourself. Could you tell me about the accommodation you're currently living in?
Right now, I'm living with my cousin in a house in Hillsdale. We're sharing with 3 other people, another guy from China and a married couple from Iran.
And do you have a favorite part of the house?
I say my bedroom or perhaps the backyard. Yeah, the backyard. We've got a small yard that's mostly brick. I like to sit out there in a rusty old chair. It's peaceful. I like to look at the blue sky. You almost never see blue sky in Tianjin.
Do you think you'll stay where you're living for a while?
I guess so. It's close to the uni I'm hoping to go to next year, and it's great for shopping and public transport.
Now let's move on to talk about hats and caps.
Hats and caps?
Yes, hats and caps. Do you ever wear a hat or a cap?
Not really. Not in Sydney. I know the sun's really bad here, and I occasionally wear a baseball cap in summer, but otherwise, no.
Why do some people wear hats or caps?
Well, to keep the sun off, to cover up their bald patches. I had an uncle who did that, and of course in Tianjin it snows in winter, so lots of people wear hats then. I've also noticed that most school children in Sydney wear hats as part of their uniform.
Do you think headgear was more popular in the past?
Probably. In my grandfather's photos from the 1960s, lots of people in Tianjin are wearing hats. In the 1970s, there was a cap, like the one Chairman Mao wore, that was kind of obligatory.
Why was headgear more popular in the past?
I'm not sure exactly. Perhaps hats showed your occupation or your social status, or, as I said, they were obligatory. You can still see old guys in Xinjiang, that's a western province of China, wearing tall, black, wooden hats because they're farmers. And some headgear belongs to certain ethnic groups.
Now, let's talk about time. When was the last time you were rather late?
Actually, I'm almost always on time. But a few weeks ago, my cousin and I drove up to the Blue Mountains. We'd been invited to a party at Mount Wilson. We've both got Google Maps on our phones, but we still got lost. By the time we found the party, almost everyone else had gone home.
How do you feel when other people are late?
It depends on the situation. I don't mind if it's a friend or a relative, and they send a text or something. But at work, it does annoy me because I'm not paid extra to do the work of a latecomer.
Do you think people these days have enough time?
Yes, I do. They say they don't, but everyone I know who makes a schedule and sticks to it or makes some kind of long-term plan manages pretty much to fit everything in. I believe you can make time if you want to.
How do you think children perceive time?
How do I think children perceive time? Well, some children are impatient, and some children think the future is never gonna happen. I know when I was a kid, I couldn't believe I'd get to high school, let alone university. Maybe time goes more slowly for children.
In this part, Stephen, I'm going to give you a topic for you to speak about for 2 minutes. Before you speak, you'll have 1 minute to prepare, and you can write some notes on this paper if you like. Do you understand?
Sure.
Here's your topic. I'd like you to tell me about someone you think is attractive.
1 minute later.
OK. Remember, you're going to speak for 2 minutes. Don't worry if I interrupt you to tell you when your time is up. Could you start speaking now, please, Stephen?
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you about my mother. Perhaps that's kinda corny, but when I look at her in photos taken when she was a teenager or in her 20s, she was, in fact, very attractive. Firstly, she's quite tall. Her family comes from Heilongjiang province, where there are quite a lot of tall people. Her own mother was taller than average for a woman of her time. So my mother's tall, and she's always had a good figure. Even now, in her 50s, she's slim and fit. She's always maintained excellent posture, which I put down to the fact that she's been a dancer since she was a child. She's tall, she's got a good figure, and most noticeably, she's got a lovely smile. Her facial features aren't classically beautiful or completely regular, but that's also part of her charm. When she smiles, she's got 2 little dimples in her cheeks, and her nickname was Dimple when she was a kid. She's got very narrow eyes and high cheekbones and a small chin. Her face is sort of triangular. Once, when I was about 12, we were on an overnight train trip, and a woman sharing our carriage insisted my mother looked like a famous singer. It turned out that when my father first met my mother, he thought the same. But in my eyes, what's particularly attractive about my mother is her gentleness. I mean, I haven't been what you'd call a model son. I scored pretty badly in the Gaokao, that's the Chinese university entrance exam, and I took almost 5 years to get my bachelor's degree. But in all that time, she still believed in me. What else? Oh, the way she dresses. In the past, our family didn't have much money, and Mom hardly ever bought any new clothes for herself. But I remember she always looked elegant in comparison to the mothers of my school friends. Even today, she usually wears fitted dresses in plain colors, not patterns, whereas lots of Chinese women of her generation like floral clothes. Yes, I'd say she's got flair.
Thank you. So, you've told me about someone you think is attractive, and now I'd like to discuss some more general questions related to beauty. First of all, physical appearance and societal pressure. Do you think these days there's a lot of pressure to conform to a norm or to look beautiful?
Absolutely. Think of all the gyms and products that are meant to make you thin in some places and muscular in others. We're bombarded with these products. Before I came to Sydney, I was working in South Korea, and I've never seen anyone so obsessed with plastic surgery as the Koreans. Women and men. My boss had had 5 procedures, and he claimed that the only way to get promoted was to look more handsome than the other guy.
Do you think he was right?
Maybe.
So what are some of the dangers of this pressure to be attractive?
Well, there'll be people who are less physically attractive who find it hard to get jobs, even though they've got the skills, and that's a waste for society. In Busan, I met people who'd borrow money from banks to pay for their plastic surgery, and I'm sure that money could have been better invested elsewhere. But the world is so competitive now. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe people were less judgmental in the past, more tolerant?
Let's talk about concepts of beauty throughout time. Do you think our idea of beauty has changed over time or basically stayed the same?
Some things change. I mean the big lip thing. My grandmother said that when she was young, women wanted to have thin lips because that looked aristocratic. These days, all the movie stars and singers have suddenly got huge lips. Also height and shape. In the past, in China, it was considered feminine to be petite and girlish. Now, men and women think being tall is cool, and they want a more Western body shape. But equally, some things do remain the same. A round face and pale skin are thought to be most attractive in China. If you read Chinese literature from 300 or 400 years ago, those were also important then.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the speaking test.